So picture this, only a few years ago, I was scrolling social media, looking online, seeing people do handstand push-ups, and I thought to myself, man, that looks sick, but it would have to take me years to get. Fast forward to today, I'm ripping it out as an absolute warm-up, and it only really took me a handful of months. And if I knew what I do today, it would have taken me half the time. And guess what? No matter where your strength is at the moment, I have full faith that you could be next.
The first drill involves building up your overall vertical pressing strength, and we have 3 progressions we're going to work through. This progression aim is to purely build the shoulder strength and the correct movement pattern that is essential for the handstand push-up. Firstly, we start with building the basics, which we know are so important, and this is just simply building up your push-ups and your chest dips to a point where you can do 20 push-ups and 10 dips. You want to build these up with obviously kneeling or elevated push-ups to start with. We can also do band assisted chest dips or tricep dips to slowly build up that push strength. Training these 2 to 3 times a week is highly recommended until you have that good foundational strength. Secondly, you want to start building up your pike push-ups, but these are incredibly difficult to get right, so please get these points correct.
So this is arguably the most important part of this video, so please do not get this wrong and just assume that you can do pike push-ups, because I can almost guarantee you're probably doing them incorrect as well. What you have to make sure you're doing is you're starting in this triangle position that you can see I'm forming here, and making sure you're also staying on your toes throughout the whole movement. From this position, this is where you want to start and end. From here, we now shift our weight forward while keeping our elbows tucked, shift our forehead to the floor or nose to the floor, and then press up back on that horizontal position into that triangle. Do not do a pike push-up and press on this forward vertical, because that is just a normal push-up with high hips. We have to be shifting our weight all the way forward, keeping our elbows tucked and vertical, and then pressing back up toward our hips on that almost horizontal diagonal line. Not press vertical, making sure you're starting in that triangle position, finishing your rep, getting back into that triangle position. Incredibly important. If that is still too difficult for you, and for a lot of you it may still be quite difficult, I highly recommend using bands or simply just starting a little bit further apart, so it will make it a little bit easier to still get that pike push-up movement pattern down, but just place a little bit less load on your shoulders. Please make sure you're perfecting this before you're moving on to those next progressions. From here, we can now progress in those 4 to 6 rep ranges by just simply slowly elevating your feet as you start to build more strength. The aim is to eventually get to a point when you're in that full 90-degree position with your feet at the same height of your hips and your shoulders and your hands in a nice vertical line, also following toward those hips. So we've built up our basics, we've started building up our pike push-up strength. The third and final progression that we have building our vertical presses is working with the wall. And this is so incredibly important to get right as well. We have to make sure we're doing these stomach to wall and we're keeping our elbows tucked, and once again shifting our weight forward to get our nose to the floor while keeping our hips nice and straight. I don't want to see anything like this. I don't want to see those hips sagging. I don't want to see you going straight up and down. You have to be shifting that weight forward to load those shoulders. And the reason is when you actually do a handstand push-up, you don't go straight up or straight down, or your hips aren't sagged like that. You have to shift your shoulders slightly forward and your legs slightly back. So when you do wall-assisted handstand push-ups, we want to mimic that exact same position. The second drill involves progressing through pike press to stands, which is so important to not only further build the strength and movement pattern that we've built in the previous drill, but we're building it in the hardest position, which is at the bottom of the press. And we're also building the balance component into those deep ranges. Such an important exercise. So with this pike press to stand, we have 5 progressions that we work through, and it will take time, but they are incredibly important to work through. And we obviously have to make sure we have a clean pike push-up first. So continue working on that before you progress to this drill. But from here, the very first progression is a simple pike press as well. So just a normal pike push-up, but we're doing a 3-second pause at the bottom, and then pressing back up as we would with the normal pike push-up. That is the very first progression. I want you guys to work roughly in that 2 to 3 rep range for this as well. I think that's a great way to build strength, but also still get enough reps in terms of building the technique. The second progression, once you're confident with that, is quite a big jump and a little bit more difficult. But what we're doing is we're pressing into that bottom position, but then getting our legs nice and tucked, holding that for 3 seconds, pressing back up as we normally would. The third progression is now in a straddle position. And then from here, we're pressing down as we normally would, lifting our legs up into a straddle bottom stand, coming back up, pressing as we normally would. The fourth progression, as we're starting to build our strength now, is now a bottom stand as we normally would with the typical bottom stand. So our legs nice and high there, pressing back up. The fifth progression before we actually learn the pike press to stand is to just do a pike press to stand with a little bit of a cheat. So we're using a little bit of momentum to jump up, press up, and coming forward there. And then eventually, as you build that strength over time, you'll be able to actually do a pike press to stand. And then once you can do that, you'll be very close to a handstand push-up too. The biggest issues I see with this drill is not shifting your weight forward enough. If your legs are too far backwards and you're trying to press up from this position, you're just gonna be stuck like this. You have to come onto your toes, shift your weight super far forward to actually balance and disperse your weight forward and back. So making sure you're staying really piked, coming onto your toes as much as you can, shifting your weight super forward. Your hips have to be over your wrists. Or any further back, just not gonna work. And that's with every single progression too. The third and final drill involves building the balance component. So the first two drills, we wanted to train 2 to 3 times per week to build up that strength. However, this third drill is a bit of a different approach. Instead of dedicating workouts to this and multiple hours, multiple times a week, we want to be greasing the groove. Aim to train your balance as close to daily as you can with shorter but more frequent sessions. Quick 10-minute sessions on most days of the week is a great start, and you could probably work that up to 20 minutes or even a couple quick sessions each day. Without spending a full hour teaching the handstand, we simply just want to build up our capacity to balance with the wall first. So first, simply just build up holding yourself up against the wall by slowly working yourself up. Once you have the capacity to be completely vertical with nice shrugged shoulders, pointing your toes up nice and high, bracing through your core and tucking in your pelvis to try and get relatively all of your joints stacked up in a vertical line. From there, we can start to learn that kick up. So we're swapping to back to wall now and learning how to kick ourselves up. We're just lightly tapping the wall on and off to build that balance. Over time, you'll start to find you get a little bit better of an attempt. You start to get longer with your holds. You might get the odd 5-second hold, 10-second hold, and then from there we can really start incorporating some freestanding attempts too. That's obviously very simplified, but to be honest with you, sometimes it is relatively simple, and the most important thing is just getting that consistent practice in. And over time, I promise it will get easier. And once you've found your handstand, this is where we can start incorporating handstand push-up attempts. I recommend doing negatives first and then finding that control and range of motion and trying to just do it relatively slow as well. Don't rush that down phase. Once you can get a good 3 to 4 second down phase and a couple second pause at the bottom, you are 100% ready to go for that up phase, and I promise you'll have that handstand push-up very soon. One last thing I highly recommend doing is working on your shoulder mobility, as for some of you, it may be a massive limiting factor. So before you do any of this practice, really trying to open up your shoulders with some simple wall holds or maybe some Y raises is a great activation exercise. And there you have it, guys. 3 important drills to build up your shoulder strength, your balance, and your control. But just remember, the most important thing is consistency. Keep at it each week. Some weeks you feel better than others, but just remember to like, comment, subscribe, and jump in my free calisthenics community. I'll see you guys over there.